Bepis, and welcome back to our Crusader Kings Guide series. Now, I'm still not done with the genetics episode. I've been fucking swamped at work the entire week, so I haven't had any time to really make much progress on getting everything I want set up. So I'm gonna do this episode here, which is going to be talking about all the game rules, because a friend of mine told me he doesn't understand what half of this shit is. And they've added a lot more rules ever since the game has been first made, and each one of them has different new symbols on it with, and some of them are DLC only, and there's a bunch of other stuff. Now, first things first. Presets. Right here. You can save a preset of yours, and you can sort each group by category. You can always reset to default at any time, and whatever you choose to have on for your game rules, whatever you use for the first time will be carried over for the second time. Now, as you can see, there's a bunch of different arrows and stuff. These allow you to choose which ones you want. Now, it'll give you a brief explanation of what each rule is down here, and I'm going to go a little bit more into depth on what they're talking about. So, difficulty is difficulty. It goes from very easy to very hard. Now, normal is normal. Basically, nobody has significant advantages or disadvantages, you or the AI. Very easy gives you bonuses, as it says. Disease impact is less. Hostile schemes are... there's a penalty to hostile schemes against you. You earn less stress. You lose more stress. Your vassals don't join factions. Easy, it's the same thing, but less bonuses. Normal is AI will get bonuses instead of you. They're, essentially, it's the opposite of what easy and very easy are. The AI will get the bonuses, not you. And very hard jacks up the bonuses. I personally don't like playing on either of them. I prefer to play on normal, because the game's already fairly easy once you know what you're doing. And even if you lose your land, the game is very forgiving, given you have a chance to play as an adventurer now. And you can always, if you're too threatened by a neighboring power, you can always just join their country if you can't fight them in war, and then hollow out their country from the inside, start a civil war to destroy the country. You know, the usual stuff. The game is pretty easy once you figure out all the systems. So, but hard and very hard make those strategies borderline impossible. Basically, you can't really go into a country and destroy it unless you can beat them in war, which you couldn't do in the first place. That's why you joined them in the first place. I mean, I guess you could become the most powerful person in the country and then rebel, but, like, it's just not really that dynamic. And if you really want to make the game harder on yourself, all you have to do is roleplay, which I'll probably talk about in one of my series or something. Oh, speaking of, in 1 month, the update's coming out for Crusader Kings 3, so be ready on that. If the Imperator Rome series is still going, we're going to drop that for the new update. Gender equality. Gender roles are determined by gender laws and faith doctrines. That's part of your religion. Lenient is, like it says here, male only will be set to male preference. Equal, all all religions have their gender laws set to equal. It's kind of garbage and it doesn't make much sense. Inverted can be fun sometimes. I've had it be. I've played with it sometimes. It can be a little fun, but default is fine. But it's whatever you want. End date: either the game ends in 1453 or it doesn't end. Keep it on 1453. The game's long enough as it is. You don't need to play without end date. Historical characters, you can either have them spawn in, people like Thomas Aquinas, Ibn Battuta, Hildegard von Bingen. Okay. There's also John Oryx. Basically, historical characters will spawn. People from history that lived in this time period that made an impact. They will spawn. They get a trait that's called historical character. And you will actually get a notification if they are in your domain, or if they're particularly well known. This one, notify all. You will be notified of everyone born within your entire sub-realm. And you can disable it as well. I like to keep them on because it's interesting to see what happens, and also you can have funny stuff like Thomas Aquinas being, like, in your court. And, like, oh yeah, Thomas Aquinas, yeah. That famous philosopher that was the court poet of the Holy Roman Empire, even though that's not what happened in history. It's just funny. Random harm. These are random harm events. I believe dangerous is the default. Tragically spiteful. The red one, the red little thing here is telling you. Tragic is hard then. Spiteful and then tragically spiteful. Okay, these are the hard ones. Basically, increased chance of random harm on tragic. Spiteful focuses on people who are of note with high skills, inheritable traits, achievements, and so on. That means it's going to focus on you, because 9 times out of 10, this is going to be you. And tragically spiteful. And that increases it on everybody, which is annoying. Random harm events are annoying by themselves. Illusion of safety. They're rarer until they aren't. I don't know what that means, but I think it means that they show up a lot less until the first one happens. And then safe is they will not kill or cripple characters. Which I don't like. I do like having some random harm events, but when this first came out, it was way too overtuned. Like, dangerous was probably the equivalent of spiteful. Or spiteful or tragic. And it was so annoying because every single character you had would get a random harm event within like 10 years. And almost, you just had a slew of like kings dying at 30 for no reason. It was awful. Random harm events, AI only. This is what I did to stop them from targeting me for a while. It's still on right now because I forgot to turn it off. I forgot it existed. Anyone is default. Player only will only happen to you, which sucks. AI only happens to the AI. I'm gonna play the next one with anyone, and we'll see how well it goes. But I honestly didn't even realize that I had this set to AI only, so we're gonna see random harm events in our next series. Okay. Conqueror frequency. These 3 ones are all about conquerors. Default, every 5 years there's a chance for independent rulers with certain traits and personalities to become conqueror. None, 50% reduced, chances reduced by 50%, 90% chances reduced by 100%. Strong only makes it so that the person who is getting rolled needs to be already powerful, significant realm size, and independent. And then there's also a reduction for strong only. I prefer to have it on default. Conqueror bonuses, default means they will just get the Conqueror trait. None mean they do not get the Conqueror trait, but they just get their AI tuned to be a lot more aggressive. Extreme, when they get Conqueror, they get Scourge of the Gods, which sucks. I don't like Scourge of the Gods. Random is a 5% chance. Low random is a 0.5% chance. I usually like to play with low random. It is fucking annoying, though. It is really annoying, though, when one of these guys spawns in. Anyway. Inheritance. Always have no inheritance on. The default is primary heir, meaning Conqueror inheritance goes to the primary heir. We had this on in our last game. It was so awful. Every single one of our characters had Conqueror just because one guy got Conqueror. It also forces you to basically do war unless you want to lose the trait. It also makes your realm way too stable. Our last game was a complete anomaly. All heirs is even worse. So no inheritance. Black Death circumstantial. Black Death circumstance. Historical, it'll spawn sometime in the 14th century, which is the 1300s, and it'll go along trade routes. And other historical regions will be less affected. Poland gets actually less affected. Organic will occur in a historically plausible scenario. It can be nice, but sometimes it pops off way too early. Random, don't. Just don't. Either historical or organic. I think organic, what it does is like CK2, where once the game population increases to a certain size, it'll just spawn the Black Death. That's what it did in CK2 to keep the game performance up. Black Death frequency once. You can have unlimited or never. I like to have it show up, because it does show up occasionally. Sometimes it doesn't even happen on historical. Plague frequency, normal, often, very often, Doomsday. Do not put it on Doomsday. Rare, very rare, or disabled. This is not Black Death. This is normal plagues. And you've heard me complain about these. A lot. Like, a lot. I think I'm going to tune this around a little bit for our playthrough when we do it, when we do our playthrough with the new DLC. Minor diseases, fewer or default. Fewer takes off achievements, so I usually just play with default. But the frequency is, I think it would be a lot better, though, if... I think it might be better if we play with rare in the future, though, because you heard me ranting about the plagues, but that's only because the plagues only ever seem to appear in Europe and very rarely in the rest of the world. I don't know what it is. It might be based on development, but in that case, then plagues would always be in Byzantines and Italy. It doesn't make sense, because it almost always exclusively appears on the British Isles and occasionally somewhere else that's coastal. It's just really annoying. Minor diseases, we already did that. Elderly health, elderly characters will get traits. I like this change. I'm keeping that. Same-sex relations default. Basically, the view on same-sex relations is based on your faith. Accepted. I don't like playing with that on. I prefer to keep it on default because I think it's better. Same-sex marriage is not available by default, which I think, yes, should stay on purely because this game's trying to be a historical game, but you can turn it on if you want. It will disable achievements, though. Distribution of sex. Here is where you're setting the most common sexuality. Equal, homo, bi, a, hetero. But equal makes all of them equal, and you can choose one that's more common. I like that because it makes the most sense. Adoption can only be unlocked by compassionate or cultural traditions, being infertile and childless, or being in a same-sex marriage. I like to keep it on because occasionally you can get adoptions that are like really cool. I had one in my personal save file in Rome where I had a character who was compassionate, who adopted a kid off the streets, taught him a bunch of stuff, and that kid eventually went on to go rule over France, and he basically turned it into a massively successful kingdom. The development in there shot up by, I think, about 20 or 30 points, which is pretty cool. Matrilineal marriages. By default, AI will arrange matrilineal marriages if they belong to the player's close family, a reputable dynasty, an equal realm, or strong rulers. Female-dominated realms set default to have matrilineal as the default. You can have default with no player exceptions, meaning the player cannot do it. Always, meaning all characters will do it, which I don't like. Female-dominated and equal if you're playing with a reverse gender norms. Maybe. Never, do not turn that on because it makes things a lot harder for you. On Exclave Independence. This is what I like to play on with significant AI only. It was on significant, not AI only. This got changed recently by myself. Sometime. Significant. Exclaves of independent rulers at peace will be removed on succession unless connected by a naval path or part of de jure territory. Basically, what it means is, if you can see in the map in the background here, if Brittany owns land in Asturias, on succession of the King of Brittany, that land in Asturias will go independent. Limited increases it by one county, naval path, or de jure territory, whereas significant is by naval path or part of de jure territory. So, yeah. Limited or significant, I usually play on significant, but AI is AI only, meaning it only works on the AI. By default, it's off. I don't know why it switched over to that, though. I did not put that on. Multiplayer DS murder schemes. This is for multiplayer games only. I don't play those, but you can turn it on or off. Legend spread chance normal. Legends already spread fast or slow enough, depending on the bonuses you put on. So leaving it on normal is fine. If you want, you could slow it down because they usually spread a bit too fast. Legend cost normal. I think it's based on your income, so it's up to you if you want to lower it or increase it. It's based on your income. Historical legends, historical legend seeds and seeds generated by the game events will appear. Dynamic, only historical, is only historical legends, which is only on game start and no dynamic ones. I prefer to keep it on. Dynamic. Name of Byzantium. I prefer Eastern Roman Empire because it was originally, it would be called the Roman Empire, but I think it fits better as Eastern Roman Empire. Byzantine is a later construct. Unholy Roman Empire? No. This, I think that's Irish. Empire of the Greeks, that's another one that was because the HRE was calling them that. Empire of Romania, I don't know where exactly that's coming from, but no. Roman Empire is what it was historically still called at the time, but I honestly prefer Eastern Roman Empire. Although if you do Roman Empire, it does change the color of their, if I hit up fly, yeah, it doesn't do it immediately, you have to go in game. It does change their color, I believe, to the color of what Rome is in-game. But I prefer Eastern Roman Empire. Realm stability, default amount of factions, AI only higher, increases it only for AI, AI only extreme will increase it only for AI, higher will increase it for you and everybody else, extreme increases it for you and everybody else. Personally, default is fine, because a lot of people do struggle with the default factions by themselves. But if you find yourself with the factions already being pretty easy to deal with, you might want to consider boosting it up to higher or higher limited. The limited flag, what it does is populist and peasant factions are unaffected. Basically, it only increases it for populist and peasant factions by decreasing all other factions. Lesser realm stability is higher amount of factions. Okay, here it is. Limited. Okay, limited means populist and peasant factions are unaffected. If you don't do limited, populist and peasant factions are more affected. And lesser is more factions, whereas higher is less factions. All right, hybrid culture frequency default is, I believe, 50 years. Less common. The AI will form less of them. None, meaning none will appear default. I like keeping default because it's interesting to see what happens. Hybrid culture restrictions. Non-player created will be significantly restricted. No hybrids of two existing hybrid cultures will emerge. Relaxed. Relaxes the restrictions a little bit. Very relaxed. Basically, almost no restrictions. I think it's better to keep it on default. Just so the AI doesn't create thousands of cultures out of nowhere. Divergent, normal, less common, none. Relaxed, default. Relaxed is more often. None means none will appear. Less common means less will appear. But divergent culture already doesn't happen. Cultures can only diverge after existing for 100 of years. Hybridize after 50 years. And these are the cooldowns. Slower, it doubles it. No cooldowns, it's available at any time. Do not do that. They just create as many as they want. Faster, probably not. Slower or default, I think default's the best. Regional heresies. Heresies are restricted to the historical regions they come up in. Lollardry will only ever go up in England and such. Heresy outbreaks will almost always be historical. Relaxed, do not have regional weighing. I like to keep it on default just because you can kind of predict what heresy is going to show up where. But it's not really all that important. Mongol invasion, by default, will invade around the year 12,000, permanently disabling the greatest of all Khan's decision. If Temujin dies without forming the empire, the invasion will be delayed at least 50 years. Never, they do not invade, don't turn that on. Mongol invasion's fun. Random, they will invade at a random date. I don't like it. Default is usually the best because then you have a big-ass late-game force to fight that's actually really strong, especially if you're playing in Europe. You can have like a whole European fight against them. In our playthrough as that Jewish empire in the Middle East, we had some real fun fighting them and their tributaries in Europe. While we also fought them a little bit as well. It was pretty fun. Random nickname frequency. It just controls random nicknames that your character can get. Halved, quartered, disabled, doubled, default. Default's fine. It's flavor. It's not actually important. CB cost, default, keep it on default. Do not do no costs. Just keep it on default. Culture conversion speed, you can make it faster and disable achievements, or make it slower. You really shouldn't be converting culture unless it's absolutely necessary. Keep it on default. You really shouldn't be converting culture in the first place. Faith conversion speed, faster, significantly faster, slower, significantly slower. Keep it on default. It's already pretty slow. I think it's like, in a lot of places, it's 10 years, and the penalty for doing it is you lose development there in the first place, so keep it on default. You don't need to make it take longer, or... Diplo range default, keep it on default. It's already really big. De jure requirement, limited. Titles with de jure land will eventually be destroyed if a character holds no de jure land of the title within their realm. The player's primary title will never be destroyed. I keep this on. I believe by default, it's just on. By default, it's on or off. I don't remember. But I like on limited the most. It gives you a little bit of a safety net. And it won't de-rank you unless your title gets usurped. But if, like, you conquer all the land in, like, a kingdom and he still has, like, a duchy somewhere else, he will eventually lose the title of king. Because he has no more kingdom. Empire obscurity. De jure empires will be destroyed unless the holder controls at least 20% of its de jure counties. Meaning, if you take over 81% of an empire, the emperor will lose his empire title, and vice versa. You can also turn it off. which I guess would be more historical, but I like Empire Obscurity on. Custom duchies. You can create non-historical duchies, and you can integrate titles into them. I don't really like it, but I've played with it on a couple of times, and it doesn't really change too much, so it's fine, in my opinion. Custom kingdoms, I really like. Basically creating your own non-historical kingdom. If, like, say, in the Middle East, if we couldn't get, if we were unable to get all the territory we needed to create the kingdom of Arabia, and we had, like, a little slice of Jerusalem, some slices of Arabia, and a little bit of Egypt, we could then just make our own kingdom out of all those slices, and then just slowly integrate the other duchies afterwards. Generate families. Most landed historical characters with no recorded family will have a spouse and up to 3 children generated for them. This reduces the risk of an early game over. I prefer having it on just for you guys. Like, if this happened, if it was off, it can cause problems depending on who you pick to start as. Or it can cause problems for the AI because they don't really know how to deal with it. It makes them a little bit more stable and this only affects the beginning of the game. Just to give yourself a little bit of a safety net at the beginning of the game. You can keep this on. If not, turn it off, or do it AI only, so the AI can actually do some stuff sometimes. Faith acceptance. Default. Keep it on default. You want it on default. The other ones do not work. Randomized face. Characters and counties have historical face. Keep randomized face off. Unless you're doing just a massive chaos run, keep it off. Random ruler placement. That's actually a good idea. One of these days we're going to do a chaos run where we just throw all the settings on something random. Random ruler placement, off. Keep it off. Unless you're doing a chaos run. AI embarkation cost. AI has to pay gold to embark. Keep it on. Unless you want to give the AI some help. In which case, none. Because you have to pay gold, they have to pay gold. It can also help lead them into financial debt, and it'll also stop them from just going on the water every, like, 2 seconds, which they love to do. This helps deter them from doing that. Domain limit, you can increase it or decrease it. Keep it on default. It's already low enough, you don't need to lower it anymore. Now, if this was back in the day when stewardship affected domain limit, I would definitely consider lowering it. But it's already pretty low, and it feels in a decent spot being tied to education. It only really affects you at the beginning of the game. So keep it on default. Hungarian migration, keep this on. Keep this on. It basically starts a war in Bulgaria with a Hungarian with the Magyar Confederacy. Right here, we'll try and migrate into Bulgaria. Keep that on. It usually does some interesting stuff. I once had the Magyars end up taking over a large chunk of Bulgaria and creating their own new kingdom. It was pretty cool. Scandinavian adventures, frequent, apocalyptic, occasional, rare, off. I like to keep them on occasional or frequent. Occasional, definitely, if I'm playing in the affected areas. We gotta get through this fast. Fall of Al-Andalus, no limitation. Death of the Caliph, historical timing. I like to keep it on no limitation or Death of the Caliph. It depends on what mood I'm in. Seljuk invasion. Seljuks will invade the Middle East sometime after the year 945. We had this happen to us in our Jewish run in the Middle East. The Great Steppe is enabled. Keep that on. Keep that on. That is very important to the whole nomadic stuff. Iberian struggle. You can turn that on or off. It depends. Iranian intermezzo enabled. Again, these two are involves the struggle mechanic. It usually doesn't do much. Basically, they just end up fighting each other down over there forever. Your choice. True King of Munster Classic. It is this default CK tutorial. Keep that on, especially if you're going to do the If you're going to play on Tutorial Island, just play as him. Outcome of the Norman Conquest. I like this mechanical. But you can definitely choose who wins as well. It's very, you can basically choose whoever you want to win, but I like to have it purely be decided by the mechanics of the game. Usually it'll be one of the 3 guys fighting. This only occurs though in the 1066 start date. Extra nomadic region. You can turn these regions into nomadic region. Extra administrative realms. You can set a realm aside from the Byzantines to be start as an administrative realm. I don't like doing that because it realistically, the administrative government is representing the old Roman government, and no other place would have that. Imperial power projection. Basically, you can only create empire titles if power projection. I think by default, is it on for AI? Basically, what it is any power advantage. Okay. Any restrictions only apply to AI. Okay, so if you have Imperial Power Projection turned on, then it only applies to AI. Alright, that's good to know. Chance of Franconcortia, the Splintered Crusade. Ah, yes. Yeah, this is, it will almost always happen, but it's, during the Crusade, there's a chance that a bunch of them decide to go invade the Byzantines. It can be interesting sometimes, though. Max of Landless Adventurers, 200 is default. Keep it on for the game performance. Impact of Advantage, I like turning it up to 10. It makes it so that each point of advantage means a lot more. Basically, your commanders are a lot more important with this, as is the ground you fight on. By default, I think it's 5. But I like to boost it up to 10. Easter egg characters. Easter egg characters are characters that are Easter eggs. Like Devs, Henry of Skalitz, that sort of stuff. Coronation laws. Kings will not become uncrowned when they ascend to Emperor tier, but what that means is they stay at the previous coronation tier. No coronation laws is no coronation laws. I like having coronation laws on. Starting Silk Road innovations preset. They will always be preset at the in the same bookmark. I like keeping this on. Earthquakes, floods. These are natural disasters. Keep them at normal. They already occur at a decent rate, I feel. And unrestricted dynasty legacies, meaning default, you can only unlock them if you are in a specific cultural, government, or region. Unrestricted basically removes all the restrictions. Keep it on default. It makes the game a little bit cooler. And that is all the game rules. I will see you all in the next episode, next Sunday, where I will hopefully, assuming I don't get swamped at work again, hopefully I will have everything set up this time. So I will see you all in the next episode, so stay tuned.